What am I doing? I'm just hanging out in the kitchen. What are you doing? Okay, it's not quite a kitchen, but we're getting there. And by the end of this episode, we're going to be even closer. I'm going to be pour ready by the end of this episode. That's my goal. So we have about 4 things to do, some bigger than others. But before we jump into that, let me tell you what I did when you weren't looking. I cut some more rebar and finished up all of my cages. And then I remeasured everything before I staked these boxes down. And when I remeasured everything, I found a couple of mistakes. So here's one, for example. This interior footing right here jutted off at 1.5 inches difference than what it should have been. So I just had to scab on this little corner piece right here. So we're good to go. No big deal. At least I found it now. And even if I wouldn't have found it, these are just the footings. So that stem wall might have been off 3/4 of an inch, not centered on the footing. You know, not the worst thing in the world, but I like to get as close to perfect as I can. I know it's unreasonable to ask for it at this juncture, but we're gonna try. And I had a similar situation happen down at that corner right there. I just had to move that one over 3/4 of an inch, and I think we're golden. So you see all my spreader boards leaning up there. Well, that's one thing we have to do, is attach those spreader boards today, in this video at least. And you see down at this footing, we need to make the spreader boards. Actually, we need to make about 50. I'm gonna make 40 because I don't wanna make too many. So we'll make 40 of them just a little bit later on here today. And once we get these spreader boards in place, then we have to attach our verticals, our vertical rebar. And some of that stuff is gonna be 5 feet tall, like down at the lower section. This up here, 3 feet tall. So I just gotta cut that so the top of that rebar will be just below the top surface of the stem wall. So there's the rundown. That's what I wanna get accomplished today. Let's start with cutting those spreader boards. I know you've seen me do this before, so I'll just make this really quick for you. It'll probably take me, I don't know, 1.5 hours to cut 50 spreader boards because I got to rip them, cut them, drill the holes. You know how it is. You've seen this before. So it's only about 48 degrees right now. But I tell you, that sun is strong when there's no wind. It might as well be 75. It's so incredibly nice. So I brought a jacket to wear inside the barn. It's going to be a little cooler in there. Okay, to fill you in, this is the pile of spreader boards that I had originally cut. And if you remember, originally I was just going to stick this across the 2 form boards and that was it. But I decided I was going to stick my vertical rebar through this board. And I can't make that bend because of the thickness of this board. But these are already cut to 19 inches and that's what I need. So I'm just going to take these and rip them in half the wide way and we'll be good to go. And after that, I have some more scraps to cut up. We'll get to 50 or 40, one way or another. And just like that, it's the next day. Had to run to town yesterday afternoon, get some materials, take care of some business. There's always something. I'm gonna use 2-inch screws to put these spreader boards in. I know some of that stuff I cut yesterday is hardly even 2 inches wide. That wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't be enough meat, I don't think, if these were only placed on, let's say, every 4 feet. But since these are placed every 18 inches, you could probably put a popsicle stick there, and as many as you have, everything would be fine. So I'm gonna start on this corner on the upper level and work my way clockwise around the house. So right now I'm standing in the future living room, looking out at the view that way. So we'll just work on this top level for now. And once I get the spreader boards in on this top section, we'll work on that vertical rebar and get that finished up on this top section. We have a lot to do. Every time I think we're getting closer, there's another step I forgot about. Did I remind you I don't build a house every day? Okay, well, let's quit whining and get to work. It seems to me I just said, as soon as I think I'm done with one step, I think of another one. I just thought of another one. Do you remember me saying in the last episode, or maybe the one before that, that these chairs, these rebar chairs, were a little unstable? They're cheap, but they're unstable. Well, I found that if I put a horizontal bar between the two, just tie them in together, just a number 3/8 bar, that really adds stability to it. So I have 3 of them I put down in this section right here. So I think I'm just gonna keep going around this top section about every 8 or 10 feet. They don't have to be every 18 inches or anything. The good thing about 3/8 inch, it cuts like butter compared to the grade 60 1/2 inch. That stuff cuts like steel. So let's cut a handful of those about that long, put them in, and then we'll start on our verts. So our footing is 16 inches wide, minus the 3-inch clearance that we have to maintain on each side. That leaves us 10 inches. So I'll tie those other horizontal rebar to this one, to this cross section. And if that rebar is 3.5 inches from the sides, that's fine. No one's going to care about that. Just has to be at least 3 inches. So I'll cut these at 10 and we'll be good to go. Man, just hardly requires any effort at all for this 3/8. It's amazing the difference. So I need about 1/2 inch of meat on this crossbar to make that connection. Keeps it spread nicely. Mostly this is for the stability. So verticals. The whole point of verticals is to tie in the footing to the stem wall, because we're doing this in 2 different pours. Even if you were to do it in 1 pour, you would still want a continuous rebar going all the way up almost to the top of the stem wall. In fact, this is where I'm going to have to play with this a little bit, because my stem wall is going to be a 24-inch section plus a 1-foot section. I think in an earlier video, I told you it was just going to be that 124-inch section of form, but we need a little more height in front where the ground is a little deeper. So we're using a 24-inch form plus a 1-foot form. So 36 inches above this footing is where the top of the stem wall will be. Well, we don't want that bar to go quite that high. So I'm going to shoot for 34 or 35 inches from the top of this footing. So along this section and behind me, it's fairly level. It's about the elevation we need. Going ahead of me here to the east, we're going to have to raise this middle section up about 3/4 to an inch maybe. So that's going to affect that bar. All in all, I don't think we have more than 2 inches to play with as far as elevation. So if I shoot for inch and a half less than 3 feet, I think we should be good to go. So at the bottom of this vertical rebar will be a hook. And engineering requires that that hook goes underneath one of these lateral rebars, and then the next one, it goes underneath the other. So that hook will go this way, then that hook will go this way, then that hook will go this way, that sort of a thing. The point is to capture these 2 long rebars that are in this trench right now. So this is where it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. The way I see it, about a 5-inch, about a 5 or 6 inch hook, and then probably 4 inches to the top of the form, at least 4 inches by the time you make that corner. Let's say 10 inches right there for now, plus 3 feet. So let's do that. Let's cut this first one at 3 feet 10 inches. In fact, I think I'll just do it with 3/8 since it's so easy. We'll bend that at the 6-inch mark and see what happens. Let's start with 46 inches. Make a bend at 6 inches. Let's see what this does. Okay, that hook is a little too long. Depending on where I set it, that hook is only less than an inch away from the side of the footing. I want more cover than that. It's okay if it hangs off a little bit more than, or less than the 3 inches, but 1 inch is too much. Okay, so that's one thing I'm gonna do, is make that hook at 5 instead of 6. Okay, that's 35.5 inches above my spreader board, which is a 1/2 inch thick. That's 36 inches. I'm gonna say that's an inch too long. So if I take an inch off the hook, inch off the top, let's make this 44 inches with my hook at 5 inches, and I think I'll be good to go. Let's try that. Okay, let's check this one out. Okay, I like that hook better already. We're at 33.5 plus the spreader board, so we're at 34 inches right now above the top of the footing. That's not bad. That could be, wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was 35, but I think we can live with 34. So let's split the difference. Cut a few 1/2 inches at 45 inches long. Make that bend at 5 inches and see what happens. Let's cut one like that anyway. 45 inches long, bend at 5 inches. You got that? Okay, that hook is good. 5 inches it is. So it's 34.5 right now above the footing. That's acceptable. I'll take that. If I'm going to err, I'll try to do it on the long side and make it a little bit longer if anything else, but the 5-inch hook is perfect. So let's go ahead and cut a couple dozen of these. I don't want to just cut rebar non-stop until all of this is done, because I counted it up and this takes 17 million pieces of rebar. No, I'm kidding. No, it really doesn't. It just feels like it. This is going to take about 120 pieces of rebar, and I just don't want to do it all at once. It's just bad for the body, bad for the soul. I don't want to get tired of this job before the foundation's even in. So let's cut a dozen or a couple dozen or whatever I feel like. Then we'll install them. So I just dropped my tie. What the heck happened to it? See that rebar tie? Yeah, if you could hold these up while I tie, that'd be great. Well, that's it. I think we can, this will move around a little bit, but I think if we just pay attention to it when we pour, I think we'll be good to go. Is that going to work? I think it'll work. Let's call it good unless we hear otherwise. Okay, it's good. Everything I can do on top is finished. I cut and installed over 70 uprights, 70 verticals. And my interior footings right here, these verticals are actually taller because these stem walls are going to go all the way up to the subfloor, to the sheathing. Whereas these will go just to the plate, and on top of the plate, floor joist, top of the floor joist, the sheathing. This is a shear wall, and it's going to be a shear wall on top of this as well. So this has to be concrete all the way up to that subfloor. So that's why these are taller than the rest. Same scenario for this one, but this one is a step down. And I'm gonna have to finish framing that before I put those verts in, before I put the rebar in at all. And I can't finish framing it until I have my elevations set perfectly on top and on bottom, so I know how and where to make that connection point. Well, let's repeat the process down there. Goodness, this is tiresome. I probably worked for about 2.5 hours without videoing, just because there's only so much you can take. I understand that. Oh, and I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but I spread out some more rebar chairs, almost doubled them up, because we have so many verticals that it was pushing down on that rebar, causing it to bow a little bit. Now it's all good and solid, should be good to go. Well, let's put some spreader boards down there and just keep going. I ran out of spreader boards. Don't have enough to finish up this little leg right here. I think I need 6 more. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm running out of daylight. It's after 5 o'clock. We're supposed to get some rain tomorrow. Hopefully I can finish this part up completely tomorrow. I have my rebar crossbars in. You probably saw that. So since that step down is 2 feet, there's no reason that rebar shouldn't be 2 feet longer down there. So let's cut a few of those. Make sure it works. I think it will work. I don't know why it wouldn't. And then I'll just keep going. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Let's close out this day and keep working. It's Saturday. Some people are watching football and hanging out in their sofas all day. Well, we're back at it again this morning. Since you last saw me, I finished up putting all of these verticals in the whole building. Check it out. I counted them yesterday, 137. That's a lot of cutting. Thankfully, that little grinding wheel worked really well, so I'm happy about that. But that's what you get when you design a house that's kind of wide open in the middle and in a high wind area. Then you need ridiculous foundations like this. But that's ridiculous in a good way. So I did have to make 7 more spreader boards, have that finished up, added all my extra chairs, added all the extra crossbars in the trenches. So now I think we have basically everything finished up on this part in the main body of the house.